What is up, guys? You got Centaurus here, bringing you another 20-hour grind silver breakdown review video thing. And this week we are doing the Taftar plane, better known as Centaurs, or I guess Centaur herd, as it says. So a couple of things to cover. First of all, it is recommended 190 AP for this spot. Honestly, the mobs are fairly tanky in general, so my personal recommendation would probably be around 210, maybe with a Kudum. Obviously, as always, that does depend on what class you are playing to some extent, as far as how well you're able to clear them. And this is the type of spot where you want to group mobs together in general, and then kind of take them all at once instead of just plowing through them, since they are fairly tanky. I'm sure there's a little bit of flexibility with that AP with what you need to be at depending on your class, but yeah, it's a little bit more than 190 where you're going to want to be at least to be efficient. You can probably do it, but you're not really going to be pulling the type of numbers that you want to see until you get around, that point at a certain level anyways. So other than that, what we're going to do is the spot right here you can see is over in just outside the Altanova region right down here. We're going to head over to the node. If you notice, when you click on the node here, it actually takes you to this dude here, because the node, that's where the node manager actually is. We're going to zip on over there because there's a daily Caffers quest, a contribution quest as well, that we want to grab. So we'll show you where the node manager is at, and we'll zip over there right now. So here's your node manager. There's usually a little dude here that'll attack your horse if you're going this way. You can just climb up this side, or you can come around the back. There's also two little dudes on the back side that will also attack your horse from there. She's chilling out. We haven't quite hit reset from when we're doing this, and I did do the quest a little bit earlier. If you haven't done the quest chain that this node manager gives you, you have to do that first. Once you've done that, she'll give you a daily quest for a Caffers and a bunch of contribution points as well. So make sure to pick that up if you're heading on to Centaurs. So now we're going to hop back on the pony, and I'm going to show you where I like to leave the horse. Obviously, there's some different options, and then I'll show you the one and only rotation. But yeah, so I like to take my horse right up around here in this little groove and kind of leave him there. The way we're going to work the rotation is kind of in a large circle around here, but I'll show you that when we get over there, once we park our horse so that it's accessible, so we can dump our trash loot as needed onto the horse, because you will get overweight at some point through trash loot. So see you in just a bit right over that way. Okay, so we've got our horse nice and safe here, and he's not too far off, so we can zip over here and dump any excess trash loot that we have once we start getting full on the weight. So let me go ahead and pull up what the item drop table is here, and then we will zip into the rotation shortly after that. So we got Taftar plane here. So you can see we have Rokaba helmet that drops. These are still at a decent price on the marketplace compared to what they used to be. Centaur belts have crashed since Central Marketplace quite a bit, but they do drop, as well as their soiled counterparts. So if you're familiar with the video we did on Crescents, you kind of know how these work. You open them and have a chance to get a Centaur belt, and once you've collected 100, you can turn those in for a Centaur belt as well. We got the usual Yona fragments and the Pilafay scrolls since we're in Valencia, and what used to be the money makers at Centaurs was your black magic crystals. That's kind of changed quite a bit since the Central Marketplace introduction, and how these have fluctuated quite a bit. And even before that, of course, we got the coffers going as well, and normal blackstones. So those are our drops that we are looking at here. Let me go ahead and show you the rotation. I say the rotation because I kind of found that this place in general didn't really allow for more than one person to be grinding at a decent amount. But at any rate, it would come in, you could just kind of make rounds around this way, and you just make a giant circle for the most part throughout almost the whole area. The reason for that is the time that it takes to clear and how the mobs are spread out like this. It doesn't really allow for more than one person. If you do find there's another person there, you're going to need to duel for the spot or kind of take it over. The exception to that is maybe if you're at lower AP amounts, you might not have as much of a problem with that as you do at higher APs. It's because you're not clearing them as quickly. So possibly maybe, two people in, the 200-ish ranges in AP, the low 200s, could probably work out, figuring out their own rotation, because you'd have the mobs respawning in a decent amount of time, whereas you're not going to have that otherwise. So anyhow, as you can see, you're just going up the left-hand side. You got all these groups you're running through, and then once you get up to the front, you're just going to go back over what we'll call the right-hand side from where we're standing now, and you just run that kind of circle as much as you want till then, all through these bros, and then you can cut a right about here, and then you'll have all these bros coming back down, and you just take it all the way back to where we started, back around from the groups on the left-hand side and on the bottom side of this cliff that we didn't affect on the way up, and you just run that infinitely until you're done. As far as how you want to attack these mobs, let me get some pets out here real quick. This kind of works like a Basilisk or the Shere Khan Necropolis type place for the most part. It does depend a bit on your AP, because in higher APs you can get away with a lot of other stuff. But you want to get them grouped up, and then you know, if you need to make sure you get in the back attacks, those will be important to pick up as well. Just so that you're just using, you know, 1 or 2 skills to clear them out efficiently. Of course, we had a couple stragglers there, and that's kind of how you want to do it. If you are in the upper AP regions, for it, you may be quicker, actually, just since they are going to be lower for you. Then you could just blow them up, and it might be faster than waiting on them to group up, but that just doesn't work if you are down, like, let's say 220 or so. You're probably going to want them group them up will be quicker than just blowing through them. So that's pretty much how you run that, and just do a giant circle all the way. You see packs of mobs, you follow them around, and then you loop back around and go back to that area. The only thing is that first tail end where we left the horse, I don't really go back there, because the last little group of mobs are just like one. So when you're clearing them, if you're heading all the way back to the horse and you clear them, you'll end up like with no mobs and have to run back around to the circle. The other thing to mention is there's one little space when you're making your circle back around that's up here, which actually the node, it dips off of Taftar Plain. You'll be coming around the back to get to it, but I just wanted to mention it. I didn't go back here often. Sometimes when I was over clearing, I kind of just did, because they're right there. But I wanted to mention it because the node is, it actually counts it for Naga's node. And when you're in it, you can see here how it says Desert Naga Temple. When you're in this zone over here for this back area of mobs, all the way up and around this corner too, anytime you're in this zone, you can actually get desert sickness from it. So just be aware of that, because it could happen right back here on this group, and then the group behind it here. Anytime you have the Desert Naga Temple nodes, you can get desert sickness, hypothermia, and heat stroke both in these areas. So kind of keep track of that. I didn't go back in these areas very often, except in some cases where I was over clearing just from whatever. I would recommend using food buffs and things at lower APs. When I did this, I used to farm Centaurs a lot back in the day when I was much lower AP. When I did this, now I'm at 265, so it was a whole lot different experience from when I was a lot lower for it. I used to make sure, you know, you're always have a food buff up for the most part, and alchemy stone. And then when I did this around, I want to say when I was 210, 220 Kudum or so on my DK, I was indeed using beast drafts as well, which helped out a whole lot, especially before I had Tet armor, because not having the Tet armor, these guys do hit pretty hard before you get to the soft cap armor. At any rate, so that's the spot, that's the zone to see the drops. Now spreadsheet time, so let me get that pulled up here, and let's break down what kind of drops we saw over the 20-hour grind here. Okay, so here's my favorite part of any 20-hour grind video, the data. Here's the spreadsheet. So what I'm going to tell you is that ever since Central Marketplace coming down and the price of black magic crystals plummeting, it's kind of plummeted Centaur's viability for being a decent grind spot. We'll break down each column, but overall, it wasn't good. I kind of knew that going into it. It used to be an amazing spot because the trash loot there is worth 2,000 a piece, which is awesome. And then you used to have BMCs that were 3.2 or 3.6 mil a piece, and that's just not the case anymore. They're all floating around 1 mil or so right now. At any rate, we were getting about 3 Rokaba per hour. This is kind of whatever. It is a decent little bump in silver, an extra mil or so from that. Combined across 3 of them. A belt, this actually surprised me. We're talking raw belt drops here. Because of the soiled drops, I actually expected this to be a little bit higher. It's possible that my RNG was kind of bad, but this was similar to what we saw at Crescents as far as getting rings. The belts obviously being much lower in value, it wasn't as impressive. You can and probably would recommend just melting these down for Yona fragments and then crafting a Bazzi belt or Crescent ring depending on what you're going for at the time. Selling them as just Centaur belts, it's going to be worth your while to just melt them and make Yona fragments, at least at the price they're at now, fluctuating between like 7 and 9 mil at the moment. But I was actually expecting this to be a little bit higher. It came out almost the same as what we saw Crescent ring drops, including when they come out of soiled. So this is both raw drops and soiled combined. Really unimpressed with that. Again, RNG is always a factor with these things, so you know, that could be an issue as well. Before I go further into it, speaking of RNG, let me just mention, as always in these videos, the pets that I have for it. Pets aren't super important for this spot since you're taking a little bit longer to clear larger, more dense packs than you are, say, a Fogans or like Shira Ruins where you're just burning through them. But that being the case, I did have 2 tier 3 and 4 tier 4, excuse me, 2 tier 3 and 3 tier 4 pets, node level 10, ecology 7%, and I did do this with a Kama blessing as well on there. Did it pretty much just burning through as quickly as I could, keeping the pets on agile loot running as quickly, but I don't think that mattered too much for this spot, since if you have even a set of tier 3 pets across the board would be more than enough for clearing this area. Black magic crystals, we came out with an average of 3. You can kind of see it just fluctuating. Never hit 0, but pretty close a few times. 1 to 5, I think, was maximum I was getting. Again, there's no loot scrolls on this. I've done loot scrolls here in the past, and I've seen anywhere from 7 to 14 BMCs in an hour, which is pretty awesome. Caphras was about what we expected in a place where you're not killing as many mobs, and it's more so just quality over quantity for this area. Dust right in line with following what Caphras would be at for that amount. Stones as a drop here, obviously not the place to go for black stones. Came out averaging a hair over 5,000, which was pretty good because when I did farm this place in the 210 to 220 Kudum range before, I know I was significantly under that. And if I want to say, I didn't track it like this back then, but it was probably around 4,000 or 4,200 before. So pretty decent there. That's 10 mil just in the trash loot alone, which was pretty much the money that got made here for the most point. About 3 soileds per hour on average. Again, these fluctuate across the board. Average exactly 1 Yona per hour, but as you can see, plenty with zeros. It was just kind of clumped up in some areas and then spread out from the others. That's just kind of how Yona goes. Pedal is whatever. Actually, it came out a little bit higher than most of the other spots did, but that's a world drop. It's not controlled. Averaged about 3 scrolls per hour, which wasn't super impressive. Again, it was spread out. There was some where it was like a decent amount of scrolls and others where it was trash scrolls. Good old RNG just coming at us again, and then of course the traces that drop in the area for a little bit extra money. This gave us a total average of 28.49. Really, really unimpressive numbers. Of course, all of the places in general have taken a little bit of a hit with a lot of the drops decreasing in value across the board, but this particular area is just not appealing. There's no high-end drop that you might get once in a while, like a cool ring or something like that you'd be gunning for. And with BMCs at the price that they're at right now, it's just really unappealing. Your money almost, if you look at this hour here, we're doing 19. Granted, I slowly kind of got into the groove a little bit better and my trash loot got better, but when you're making 10 mil an hour for trash and you're over here, like here's a 16 mil hour, this just feels really terrible. Like grass beetles probably yields about the same, if not a little better, since that's the Holy Land anyways. So yeah, overall, not super impressed with this area. It used to be an amazing spot, but it's just not the same anymore. The upsides to it, there's no PvP here because nobody else is grinding this, so you don't have to worry too much about getting a rotation. Almost no one was ever there. Storage issue wise, you really don't have any trash loots, mostly what you're getting, and then the item drops don't weigh very much in the first place, so you can just overstack your horse as needed with your trash loot, and you'll be totally fine there, so that's not an issue. Silver raw drops are the same as it is anywhere, and you're going to use it for repair. As far as XP, it's a really terrible spot for XP. There are Marnie stones for this zone, but again, because you have a quality over quantity type of grind spot, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to grind for XP in this area. You're kind of just wasting your time. Pick any place with a higher mob density and kind of just go with that. So that's the Centaurus silver breakdown. This around 20 hours. That one is done. You can see on my list that we are doing Basham next, except I spelled it wrong in my tab. But that'll be the next one. I'm a little ways into it. However, the Narc accessory event has a Basham quest, so it's been halting my 20-hour grind in that spot. So I slowed down on that for a little bit now with that going on. But that's going to be the next one coming up for next week's 20-hour grind video. Hopefully have that up later this week since this one came out a little bit late. But that is all for it. If this is your first time stopping in, be sure to like this video. If it's your second time stopping in, also like this video. But be sure to subscribe so that you get updates when we get new videos out. Quite a few per week. We do patch note recaps, video guides, do these 20-hour grind videos. Try to get one out every single week I can. For that, and we also do live streams on Twitch every Saturday at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 1 p.m. We do some enhancing every weekend, trying to push for some bigger gains. So if you want to check that out, the Twitch link is in the description below, so jump on over there and put a follow in if you want to get an update for when we go live so that you can check that out. And if you guys have any questions or comments, what you're doing at Centaurus, make sure you say that in the comments below, or other things you want to see coming up or new spots. Obviously, I already have the next spot picked, but I'm always taking suggestions for other videos that we're working on. I'm always all ears. So that's going to be it for this video. Everybody, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.